Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast, the show that brings you the latest insights, thought leadership, and stories from across the global mining industry. In today's show, we have Janina Elliot from Seequent, who is a global leader in the subsurface software that supports the mining and mineral exploration industry. Their company's technology helps geoscientists and engineers better understand the earth beneath our feet, enabling smarter decisions around resource discovery, development, and management. In this episode, we're going to discuss some of the innovative work Seequent has been doing across the sector, including insights from the recent released Geoprofessionals Data Management Report. We're also going to explore the challenges the industry faces in managing and integrating geological data, where technology is creating new opportunities for exploration and production, and how digital innovation is shaping the future of mining. Also, Ewan is going to share Seequent's perspective on merging ideas and technologies that could define the next chapter of the industry. Janina, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
No, I appreciate your time. So, as we always start these podcasts off, just wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about, obviously, your career, your background, how you got into the industry, and I suppose how your career has developed over time. So I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Thank you very much. And I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now, almost as long as Seequent has, for that matter. And I started off as a geologist in the UK, actually. I did my undergrad in Birmingham. Unique to that environment, I was really curious about exploration geology. So my school was all about structural geology and paleontology, kind of geared towards the oil and gas sector. But I was a bit of a rogue geologist. I was like, hard rock, that's my gem. And so afterwards, I went to pursue a PhD at the University of British Columbia with the Mineral Deposit Research Unit. And that was a fantastic environment to get introduced to ore deposits around the world. But my focus was always on the geochemistry of copper gold porphyry deposits, which of course are a big topic these days as well. And at that time, it's like what we experienced was the economic downturn in the mining industry in 2012. And what was interesting then is, of course, that a lot of us lost our jobs and weren't quite sure how to continue to pursue a geoscience career. And what popped up then for me was technology. And that's how I found Seequent at the time. So I was hired as a consultant to teach what is still our prime product, Leapfrog Geo. And ever since, I haven't looked back, because in that environment, I had the opportunity to work across the globe, across many different deposits type, to understand what are the true challenges of our customers across the mining chains, whether it's an individual consultant in exploration all the way to the active producers. And it's been a fascinating environment. And over those 13 years with Seequent, I've worked in data management, I've worked in energy, because we are also serving a number of different segments, including environment, energy production, civil infrastructure, and of course, mining being our strongest component. And now I'm the segment leader for mining and look after the business strategy. So looking into what is it that drives our industry overall, what are the undercurrents that make us do certain decisions, and what is the technology that can help us to move forward as an industry. That's
Great.
me.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. I just wondered if you can obviously tell us a little bit about Seequent and obviously outlining its role in supporting the global mining and mineral exploration industry.
Yeah, you've already given a great introduction earlier on, and that's exactly what we are. We are a geoscience subsurface software organization, right? So what we're trying to do is to bring clarity to the complexity that is the underground in mining primarily, but also in energy, environment, and civil infrastructure. They're all connected problems, ultimately, connected challenges that drive how we as society lives and operates, ultimately. And what our technology is meant to do is to make it easier to to understand the complexity of the underground and to make safer and more sustainable decisions so that we can move our projects forward, whether it's targeting a new exploration project or whether it's building a tower in a city, for example, in a safe environment that we can all rely on. And and not only to work within our own environment, our own ecosystem, but with partners as well. So Seequent is an organization that really strives to work with basically anyone that supports our customers and that works in the ecosystem that is the mining chain.
Wonder if you can just tell us about obviously some of the most exciting projects yourself and the company are actually working on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, technology is moving so quickly at the moment. Everyone knows about AI and ML, but there's a lot of other things that are supporting that space. And so, one of the most exciting things we're working on right now is the Evo cloud platform that we've developed and launched last year at PDAC. And 1 year in, it's been amazing to see it's like what that technology has brought to the table. But just to give you a bit of background, the idea around Evo was always to bring our community and the mining industry together. And not just our clients and our customers, but also everyone else that provides solutions in that particular space. So this cloud technology on this platform is meant to be open. Meant to provide the opportunity for partnerships and ultimately allow everyone to connect their data that they create overall into a connected workflow environment that serves our customers. And that's truly exciting because we're utilizing the latest technology and compute technology in order to accelerate existing workflows and to gain more insight from that data that we can action on today and really serve that idea that everyone needs to optimize right now to meet the targets of tomorrow.
Yeah. And what are some of the other typical projects that you work on with obviously various clients around the world?
Yeah, so there's a whole number. As I mentioned, it's like we serve the entirety of the mining chain. So in the exploration space, it's of course about finding new deposits and finding new targets. A lot of the projects we're working with right now, and we all know this in our industry, are more on the advanced side. So it's often brownfields exploration that deals with historic data. So one app that we've created on the Evo platform, for example, called Driver, focuses particularly on that particular environment. And we've seen some fantastic results around that. So it's the idea of bringing in historic information, of bringing in existing data, and trying to understand new patterns and trends within that data set that have yet not been discovered with the human eye. So to utilize mathematical algorithms, and we're all used to those, there's statistical algorithms, but there's also new technology around AI and ML that allows us to see where are there trends that could guide our targeting? And that is then in support of the geologists, so that geologists can see new patterns and integrate them in their understanding of what that ore body evolution, that genesis actually was. So it supports support of the geologists basically to make decisions faster in that targeting space. And we had a couple of fantastic results around that with a case study that we presented at PDAC with OceanaGold, for example, who now this is an example for an active production environment, but yet looking for new targets, where the combination of Driver with the Evo platform environment, with Leapfrog Geo, our main modeling product, and of course with other partners such as Deswik, for example, to find where are there new targets in their constrained vein environment. And indeed, a new space was evolved for potential excavation and exploitation going forward. And that is exciting, how quickly these things can happen, be turned around to really create actionable insight and be able to optimize whether it's exploration or active production basically tomorrow.
Seequent recently released its Geoprofessional Data Management Report. What was actually some of the key findings, and what do they signal about the state of obviously data management across our sector?
That's right. So this was our 7th edition. So we do actually have quite a bit of insight over the years on how that environment has changed. It's surprising how it hasn't changed that much. And the reason for that is that every year we deal with more and more data volumes, and getting on top of that is really hard. So one of the stats that we treat from that is that over more than 1/3 of our geoscientists across the mining chain still struggle with data wrangling, basically. So trying to get information, whether it's it's historic or just produced, into a state where this data can become actionable so that we can draw insight immediately and then move on to the next step. That is really hard to do. And so a lot of our geoscientists in the field really struggle with the idea of having to spend a predominant amount of their time with data management ultimately, and not being able to think about the problem, to being freed up to be the experts that they could be in order to understand what are the next steps. That is a true issue, and that needs to be resolved.
Where is Seequent helping mineral exploration and obviously mining companies respond most effectively to overcoming inherent data challenges and the pressures of today's markets?
Yeah, so it has to be through smart technology and the availability to have different data environments to interact with each other to gain that actionable insight faster. So I mentioned early on the Evo platform, for example. That is a data environment where you can truly curate your information, where you have an idea about lineage. You can introduce governance to your data to understand where it comes from and ultimately to build a floor to your data problem. So you never have to go back and say, okay, well, now we've acquired this project and the cycle starts over again where we try to figure out what's going on. That needs to end, basically. One data source, one truth ultimately, and then being able to tap into that information and then interconnect the different parts of the mining chain with each other and the individual products that we bring to the table as well, and partner products that they then can utilize this information to draw actionable insight. So it's about creating an environment that can not only access the information, but bring it into a workflow environment that is seamless and that allows to compute in a time frame that matches the accelerated processes that we see today, that optimization idea. We have to act fast and we have to act with integrity and quality, right? So that's what Evo brings to the table. And we're hoping, of course, that it will allow the entirety of the mining chain to capitalize on that capability and then continue to build from that, because it is that environment that allows us to introduce more AI in the future and truly free up that geologist or the geoscientist to be able to think about the problem and not become a data management wrangler.
You highlight there's opportunities in technology. What factors should companies consider as they seek to obviously adopt and deploy new digital avenues for exploration and obviously active production?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think we can't answer with a traditional answer in that sense, because technology is changing so fast and there's so many interesting, innovative providers out there today. In the past, what usually has happened, right, is that the major producers, the large diversified miners, the ones with the money ultimately, picked up a technology and then see, well, so does it work out? Does it work? And then eventually there's a trickle down effect throughout the mining chain that allows then others to also pick up that particular now tested and proven sort of technology. But that's changing ultimately. And there are two different reasons for that. One of them is, obviously, we need to move faster as an entire industry. We need to act now. And that means that we have to pick up new innovations that allow us to compete with each other and compete with the market. And another piece is that the innovators become smarter as well, because they realize that what's important, particularly for the exploration space, is to be able to capture value right now. And quite often, a lot of the technologies that were brought out in the past sort of create value, but it's realized farther down the chain. And that doesn't really support that exploration space today, for example. So there's a lot of innovation out there that focuses on that, to be able to create active feedback loops, for example, for data coming in, being evaluated, and creating value that then allow us, for example, an explorer to adjust the drill grade, for example, or the drilling patterns, their targets in the moment, so they can capitalize on that while they're still in the process of exploring and drilling. That's important, so that we can capture that value much closer to the inception point and act on it. And so I think a lot of innovators realize that, and they have created technology that just utilizes the capability and also the economy of scale that is relative to that part of the mining chain. If you're a big provider and optimized, or you are a producer, obviously you can afford a little bit more. In the exploration space, it has to fit the need and it has to fit the scale of the exploration space as well. And I think innovators have been pretty smart in that. And so there's a fair bit of technology out there that fits that space and will really change how we do geology these days.
Yeah. What are some of the most common challenges or even problems that either explorers or even larger mining companies come to you with where you're able to help them solve some of their obviously problems that they have?
Yeah, oh, that's a good question. A lot of it comes back down to the raw data and how to utilize those data volumes, push them through. But others is about understanding how we can change how the workforce thinks. That is an interesting topic because that's where we really have to partner with the industry. Up until now, it's like a lot of the time, the way that we work is around checklists. It's a very linear way of thinking, right? It's okay, I do this, then I'm moving on to this task, and eventually I'm done, finished, right? And then maybe next year we'll come back and redo it all again. Or in a production space, it's basically everything is done in a very conservative fashion in a workflow that supports the always on environment, right? So that we don't end up in a space where all of a sudden there has to be a stop or halt in the active production space. I mean, that is terrible. We don't want that. But at the same time, we need to evolve. We need to be able to utilize new technologies, and that means a different kind of thinking and finding innovative ways to still be able to be always on. And so when I mean change of thinking, it's around that feedback loop environment and to be able to be agile and proactive rather than reactive. And that's where we actively work with our clients to understand what technology can we bring to the table to facilitate that type of thinking and that type of active work environment. And it comes often down to the availability of data and the quick feedback loop environment. So seamless integration of workflows and different capabilities.
Obviously, being an innovator yourself, what is Sequent's perspective when what obviously merging ideas would define the next chapter of mining?
Yeah, the next chapter of mining, I think, is controlled in many ways, again, by data and how well we use it, and automation is another piece. I mentioned a few times freeing up the geologists to be able to be the experts that they need to be. I think that's where the future lies ultimately. We know that we are in an environment where we're going to have, or we're already struggling with the workforce. We have very few young geoscientists entering the geoscience space. We need to support that space. But in the interim, where we have a fewer people working for us, we'll be able to maybe fill that space like with smart technology that supports the people that are in the industry already, and truly to let them be the creative thinkers that they are, because geoscientists truly are creative individuals, right? And so the idea is to provide technology that supports them every step of the way and allows them to, to teach us ultimately too. It's like, what are the workflows that define the future? Because it's fascinating. It's like how a lot of the ideas that we come up with had their roots in the creative thinking of our customers. And it's about that partnership that really drives us forward as an industry as a whole, and not just Seequent by itself. We really work in partnerships with the industry.
Yeah. And obviously, as a conclusion, what is one message that you would like to our listeners to take away about Sequent's vision and its role in the future of mining?
Yeah, what I'd like for everyone to take away is the idea about openness and partnership. We're all under a lot of pressure these days, despite a bull market at the moment, to optimize, to be able to compete, and of course, to fortify ourselves for when times are not as good anymore, which inevitably will come. But the principal idea is to be able to conversation and to be open to the idea of integrating new technologies, new ideas into existing systems, so that we move faster as a collective whole, and and step into the future together. So it's about that partnership and the fact that we're always open to new ideas. Don't hesitate. Come back to us. We love the creativity of the market. Let's define the future together.
Yeah. Janina, really appreciate your time. Thank you for obviously sharing your story, tell us about Seequent, and obviously tell us about some of the technologies that you're using and being innovative in our industry. And I think obviously with the technology and AI advances with obviously within the sector, it's great that we've got someone that's come on and showcase what they're doing within our industry. And thank you for coming on. And if our audience wants to reach out to you, if they want to follow the story, find out a little bit more about what Seequent does and how they can help with some of their challenges, how can they go about doing that, and what social media platform channels are you on?
Yeah, we're basically everywhere. All your familiar channels. Of course, there's our website, but we'd love to hear from you personally as well. It's like we are that kind of company that's really, thrives on conversation with the industry. So don't hesitate to contact us. LinkedIn is a fantastic space to get started. We're always there. Otherwise, just pick up the phone and call us directly. We're happy to hear from you.
Yeah, no worries. Well, obviously, all those details being our show notes are coming this episode for easy access. So I'm sure some of our audience will reach out to you and ask them to obviously help them. So thank you very much for your time again. And perhaps you can come on the podcast either later this year or next year and give us an update on some of the work that you've been doing.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, appreciate your continued support. Please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. And obviously, if you want to get in contact with Janina, her details are in the show notes. If you have any problems or challenges with some of the data that you have, hopefully Seequent can obviously help you with that. So thank you for your continued support. Please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.